Hello everyone! First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know that sometimes it can be very overwhelming if you are a parent or caregiver for anyone really, and you're navigating caring for someone besides yourself, as well as making all these decisions for you and this other person. And then on top of it, the schedule. I know everyone wants what's best for their family, and it's not always easy to tell what is the best. And so that's why I'm here. I want to talk about why piano keys builds stronger foundations than traditional private lessons. I used to believe private lessons were best, hands down. I started teaching believing private lessons were the gold standard. One teacher, one student, maximum personalization. Over time, I noticed consistent gaps. Students learned songs, not always foundations. Reading was inconsistent, technique didn't always stick, ear training was hit or miss, ensemble skills were almost non existent, really. And this is not a comment on the teacher. These are just the details that get lost in a private lesson setting. Especially because typically private lessons start at 30 minutes weekly, and it's really not enough time to get everything in. So what often happens is, just songs, and a lot of these things fall through the cracks. And then we have the modern reality, right? Families are busy. Practice at home is really hard to sustain. Beginners need a lot of guided repetition, and private lesson time just quickly disappears. So the result is most lesson time is spent just getting through a piece. We're learning the song with the teacher every week. There's not much time to practice in between. Little time remains for the core skills underneath the music. Those core skills are like the foundations you need to learn music independently. And at our school, and I hope other schools feel this way too, our goal is to teach all the foundational skills so that our students, as they grow and become adults, or if they are adults, as they progress and go on to leave us, which is sad, but we hope that it does happen, they are successful at continuing their music journey without us. So, it's hard to get all of those skills in a lesson because we're focusing so much on just getting through that song. Now, we have never had a strict practice policy at Chambers Music Studio because we do understand that life happens. I'm going to raise my hand and say that I was one that was not always practicing before college. I did practice, yes, but I had my fair share of fighting over whether or not I wanted to go down and practice, and getting frustrated when I did practice. I was one of those people. You know what? Once I got going, I enjoyed it. It was hard for me to actually get started. And there are a number of reasons for that, and we'll have a resource on that topic at a future date. But I want to point that out, that's why we have a very flexible practice policy, because we understand that there's a lot of other reasons that get in the way, and we don't want that to hold you back. So, take into account the realistic expectations that we should have as a society and how we can continue to offer high quality music education for our clients and families with all these gaps. And I had to ask, is there a better way? Is there a better way? I researched systems worldwide, and we did intense trainings with our staff for months at a time. And what we found from all of that research is the Piano Keys program. And it solves all these problems. Before I go on into the next section, I did want to give a little bit of background. My credentials, I studied music piano and voice as a kid. My family sang in the choir at church. I was in choir in elementary school, high school, and I went into music education at Capital University. And I completed my 4-year degree. I taught public school music for 5 years. I also did my master's in music education through Capital University as well. And I studied in Hungary twice. I did a program in undergrad over there, and then I also took a pedagogy diploma as a sabbatical somewhere in the middle of my teaching career. I have always been a lifelong learner and am constantly reading and following what is the next best technique, how do we learn, psychology books, all of it. I also studied the Estel method of vocal production and have closely followed Carrie Obert, who was one of the founding members of Estel. She also has created an additional program that she continues to do research from and post videos through her own program. There was Get Vocal Now, as well as Integrated Vocal Pedagogy. So if anyone's interested in finding out more about those programs, I can definitely point you in the right direction. And although so can Google and chat these days. All that to say is I have a strong foundation in the understanding of how music and education combine. And you don't always find that in these types of schools. You'll often find a musician that was a performer, gone teacher, nothing wrong with that, or corporation of some sort, or an owner who just wants to own like a franchise in a music school. None of those are wrong. They're just different, and just mentioning that to help you understand why I personally selected this program over continued private lessons. Now I want to talk a little bit about why traditional piano private lessons miss foundations. The lesson time is often absorbed by the song coaching. Most of this lesson goes to reviewing the last week's piece, fixing notes, rhythms, managing focus. What often kind of gets squeezed out due to time is technique, reading fluency, ear training, rhythm, theory, and sight reading. Those are a lot of categories that many of you may not have been aware of, but they are key factors in a quality music education. The outcome of this becomes students learn songs but not transferable skills. That's our goal. Transferable skills as a music studio, that you graduate from our program after you've gone through all of our programs. You are competent enough to practice music on your own and enjoy it and receive the ultimate benefit of the music education that way. So, progress depends heavily on home practice in the traditional private lessons system. Private lessons assume that you have consistent guided practice at home, and that's not always the case. Really, families struggle to support daily practice. Beginners don't always know how to practice yet. And then when practice is inconsistent, progress slows, frustration grows, motivation drops. Another key one is ensemble skills are largely missing. Most pianists train as solo players only. Common struggles later are playing with others, accompanying singers and groups, and listening and adjusting in real time. These skills are delayed for years, and they really should begin on day one. All of the other band instruments begin in ensemble settings. And really, if you look at the types of jobs that are available as a musician, accompanying singers for choir, accompanying vocalists, accompanying solo and ensemble students, performing in pit orchestras for musicals. Those are all the paid piano gigs. And then you also have, professional pianists that memorizes pieces and plays on their own. out of all of those, which one is the most competitive that very few people are actually going to reach that goal? Yeah, the solo performing that's memorized. A lot of musicians build sustainable music careers, accompanying choirs, accompanying vocalists, and playing in small groups. That skill needs to happen much sooner. It's why you'll see a flute player that's been playing flute for 2 years in band be able to play in a group better than a pianist who's been playing for 10 years. I experienced this myself. I went to college and I'd never accompanied anyone before. I think maybe one time, maybe. I don't really remember, but if I did, it was like I played a hymn and she played the same hymn and we played the same notes at the same time, right? So when I went to college, it was very difficult. I had accompanying right away. I had no experience in it, and they were looking at me to be professional level when I didn't know what I was doing. That was hard. That was really tricky. There's a different art to playing with another person, to playing with a group, especially if you have to learn music right away. There's a totally different art than, if you have the freedom to learn a song by, let's say, every day just staring at your hand, slow practice, staring at the music, writing notes. That's a great way to learn, but that's not a way to learn ensemble skills. And that's gonna be difficult later on. So, the piano key solution. Well, I understand, first of all. If you hear group, you're like, no, my kid's gonna be stuck on Mi Re Do or CDE or hot cross buns for months and months and months. I know what you're thinking. I thought the same way. And in this case, it's individualized learning at each student's pace, and they move forward when they're ready. There's no waiting for the group. Teachers rotate for individual coaching during the first part. They have a system where if they need the teacher sooner, we have flags, a celebrate flag and a trouble flag that lets the student put a flag up and continue practicing. And that lets the teacher know, do I need to help the student right away or can I finish this coaching over here? And there's independent practice built in during that class time too. So if you're not getting a coaching, you're practicing your music over and over until you get it without the nervousness of someone watching you. So often in a private lesson, the teacher shows you how to do it and you try it and you fail at it and you're too afraid to keep trying. And then you're so nervous because the teacher's watching you right then and there that you keep messing up. And then you hardly practice at home because your life's all over the place. Your brother's got soccer and then you've got gymnastics the next day. And then mom has choir and then dad has soccer or baseball or bowling, or works late. I mean, every day of the week ends up being running around. So progress is really slow that way. This way, the student, they get that independent practice right away. It's less pressure than home, and it's faster, more consistent progress because they get that one little bit of feedback. They get to practice it a bunch, and then the teacher comes back around and they get that feedback on that. Did they get it? They got it. Now, there's ensemble skills learned from the very beginning. They learn how to stay in tempo, they learn how to play while listening, they essentially learn how to accompany, and they learn how to adjust to others. They learn how to fit into the music texture. This builds real musicianship, not just solo playing. We have an assessment piece that assesses when they've mastered these songs, and that's how we know that it's time for them to move on. And whenever they master all of book 1, they just go right into book 2. There's also built-in ear training and pitch awareness in the program. The second half of the class, there's all of our music foundation skills. So every class, there is ear training built in and pitch awareness. Echo patterns, interval work, pitch matching, melodic listening, pattern recognition, all of those things happen every single week. There's sight reading and music development every single week. When they're learning the song sight reading, there's actual note reading exercises for writing. It's really emphasizes reading skills, not just memorization. There's repeated exposure, there's rhythm patterns, there's structure reading tracks. The systematic and intentional technique training. Technique is sequenced and reinforced. We focus on posture, hand shape, wrist alignment, arm weight, dexterity, finger patterns. These skills are separated out, and you just focus on the skill. With 1 or 2 notes makes it so much easier. And when they get used to that skill with those 1, 2 notes, then they know to go and put it with, they just naturally do it. It's kind of miraculous. Like, I would have private lessons, and I would work on these skills through the music or through some technique exercises. And it would be so hard to master these because they were trying to do too many things at once. The student would overthink, they'd be trying too hard, maybe because I'm sitting there. They're stressing themselves out a little bit. Not that any private lesson is stressful, but there's that extra, oh, I'm going to try really hard feeling, right? They just naturally have good technique in this program. It's because we've separated it out. You do the technique separate. You talk about it separately. And then they just naturally apply it to the songs. It's amazing. The technique becomes automatic. It's not fragile. Foundational skills taught through games. There's game-based reinforcement with rhythm, reading, ear training, theory. They're not kiddish games. They're just like in the guise of a game, which is why this program is great for all ages. I mean, we start at age 5 and up, but middle school, high school, we have some adult-only classes. These are the classes you want to be a part of because there's no kiddish aspect. It's good quality pedagogy. And like I said, you move out whenever you're ready. So if you're an adult and you're ready for the next level, you just move right up to it. There's more playing, which becomes more confidence for the students. They spend significantly more time actually playing, increased repetition, stronger reinforcement, faster confidence growth. When piano lessons do make sense, okay? So sometimes we still want piano lessons. These are ideal after the students have gone through the entire Piano Keys program. Their reading fluency is strong, their solid technique, independent practice habits, ensemble awareness, confidence, and consistency. This program builds those skills first. Then private lessons are very efficient, very enjoyable, very effective. And you get to more advanced, higher level music faster because instead of taking a year per level, you're taking maybe 12 weeks, maybe 24 weeks on each level. What we see every day in Piano Keys, students progress faster. Students understand what they're doing. They read music fluently. They develop stronger technique. They gain ensemble skills. There's much less home practice required. They build real music independence. They're not dependent on the teacher. Here's a measurable difference for you. Piano Keys students master 1 to 4 songs per week. Traditional private lesson students often master 1 to 2 songs per month. This creates momentum, excitement, long-term success. I'm going to close with the education I wish I had. And I wish Piano Keys was available to me as a student, as a young child. It is the beginning I wish I had as a young pianist. I'm not complaining about my previous music education. Everyone did what they could with the tools they had. Piano Keys solves the practice struggle. It builds ensemble skills immediately. It strengthens reading, rhythm, technique, and ear training. It honors individual pacing. It makes musicianship joyful and accessible. Private lessons are wonderful later. Piano Keys builds the foundation that makes them truly shine. And you're going to love it. Your kids are going to love it. You're going to love it. Everyone's going to love this program. Thank you so much for your time, and I really look forward to working with you guys in our Piano Keys program.